What's up everybody, and welcome back to another Core Keeper video on all of the bosses in the game. Now this is going to be the only video that doubles back on any boss we've done, because today we are going to talk about every single slime boss. Yes, there are a variety of slime bosses, I believe 5 in total, and they kind of exist as optional bosses. They offer a lot of good potential loot, but again, you don't have to defeat them to progress in the game. You only have to kill a variety of main show bosses. But you know, I'm covering all the bosses, so I figured I'd go ahead and get the slimes out of the way. They exist in a variety of places throughout the game. They're not bosses that usually you would fight in the order I'm about to show you, but again, they're all slimes, and I wanted to group them all together for convenience. So let's get into it, and we're starting with the only double up we will do, Glurch the Abominous Mass. So we covered him yesterday, and I'm going to head there now so we can fight him once more. Alright, so you might recognize this arena and the boss chest that I totally left here, and the fact that it's really dark, and the fact that my guy's starving and needs to eat one of my 4,761 delicious hearty pepper wraps. So this is the same arena we were in yesterday. I'm not going to waste a lot of time talking about it. I obtained 6 giant slime summoning idols, because you can use these to summon every single slime boss in the game, with the exception of one. So we're going to go ahead and not talk about this one too much, because again, we covered it in the last video. If you're curious, go check out my other video on the first 4 bosses in the game. Glurch is just a big fella that's going to jump at you and try to hit you. Once you get too close, he gets mad. You zap him a bunch, he gets even more angry, and then dies. So, hooray, we killed Glurch again. He dropped some stuff. The most valuable to me at this point in the game is orange slime. The candies are pretty good, and these ancient gems are always nice. But beyond that, I'm not going to touch that chest. It can just stay there. So that's Glurch. If you remember from the other video, he'll hop around, try to hit you, leave this slowing slime on the floor, but not much else. So not an incredibly big threat, nothing to worry about. So the second of the bosses that we're going to talk about is actually just a little different. It's a boss called King Slime. So actually, we don't have to go anywhere for this. Fightable in this exact same arena here by using this platform that you see. So King Slime is technically the second strongest slime boss that well, not second strongest, the second weakest, the second in order boss fight that you will do if you're aiming to hunt down all of the slimes. But he cannot be summoned by the giant slime summoning idol. Instead, he can be summoned by an object you have to just find by killing enemies throughout the game, the crown summoning idol. As you can see, I have one in my inventory, so we're just going to go ahead and lay it down. Now this fight goes a little differently than the regular orange slime fight, so I'll talk through it as we get going. So once you put it down, I'm going to step back so it doesn't get mad right away. He got mad right away. Oh, no, we're good. Okay, cool. So that fella right there is the King Slime. Now, if you're a Terraria fan, you might recognize King Slime as a bit of a crossover enemy here, but he's a relatively good easy earlier game boss you can fight. Now, his mechanics operate in much the same way. You get too close, he gets mad and starts jumping, but he has a few different mechanics you're going to want to watch out for that make him different from your first slime encounter. First and foremost, as you fight him, you'll see that these little blue slimes are going to start to pop off and hunt you down. Orange slimes are pretty indifferent to our shenanigans, but as we keep hurting this guy, he just continues to spawn blue slimes. So this can make the arena really hard to run around in, because you're going to have a bunch of additional enemies hopping up. Now, it's not hard for me because, again, my character's made it through the end game to the very, very end of it all. I have a weapon that bounces from enemy to enemy, but if you're just fighting with earlier game weapons and armor, you're going to run into a lot of trouble. Other than that, though, it's a relatively similar fight to the experience you just had. So, now when you knock him down to a certain threshold, again, he'll get angry, like the other slimes, and you'll see he starts to move faster. Again, very similar, wow, to the orange slime that we fought earlier, with the exception, again, of his ability to spawn these little guys. But for the most part, if you can keep moving, they're not going to get in your way, and once you DPS this boss down, he will explode, as the others before him have done. Boom! Now, a very noticeably different chest. The other chests were destroyed in our little rubble there. Ah, there's one. So, very different looking chests, for sure, but a nice variety of loot always offered. Usually a whole bunch of health potions, which is nice to stack up on because they're useful throughout the entire game. The King Slime crown, a statue, some music notes from Terraria, mind you, and then a Royal Gel, which these have the added benefit of equipping both of them. You become the King of Slimes, which means no slimes will bother you. But then the Oozy Royal Egg, which is one of my favorite. As you can see down here, I have Flubber. Pets are new to the game if you haven't played in a very long time like I had. When you equip a pet, they join you for your journeys and add a variety of boons. This particular one is good at fighting bosses. So I like to keep him on me. I kept him on me throughout the entire campaign to fight a variety of bosses. I don't usually use him right now just for tutorial purposes because he would go crazy on some of these early bosses, but either way, so that was King Slime. Now next on our list, we actually have a different type of slime, more of an elemental one that comes later down in the game. This is our first major jump from earlier game enemies to later game. So next up, we have to head into the jungle biome to fight Ivy the Poisonous Mass. Let's get going. Now, one thing to note before we go off, and I'm only going to say it at the top of the video, is last video I mentioned this little guy here, the little shop hologram that you can get from activating the statues in the center. He offers a variety of different trackers to hunt down different bosses. Now, the slimes are actually all offered here. So the Hive Mothers, one that we already did. Glurch, you don't have to hunt down because you already killed him. And King Slime, you just have to find the spawning idol for somewhere in the world. But all of the other slime bosses are right here. So we have Ivy, the Poisonous Mass, Morpha, the Aquatic Mass, and Igneous, the Molten Mass. So these are going to be the latter 3 slime bosses that we're going to fight, and I'm going to go ahead and go hunt down Ivy the Poisonous Mass. So I'll see y'all when we get there. Alright, so here I am in the teleport menu from the main base. You can see right there's my character in the background using the portal that spawns near base at the teleport pad. There's a bunch of them you can find throughout the world. This is a boss we'll talk about on our next video, I presume. But if you come over here, you can see all of the poison slime on the ground. This is the arena for Ivy the Poisonous Mass. And again, you can see with this teleport that most of the bosses will have a teleport pad adjacent to their arena. So I didn't put this here. When I was looking for the boss, I found this here, and it was just north in this instance of the boss we are looking to fight. So I'm going to go ahead and put this back in my hand. So as you can see, it's a little more faded, but because of the poison slime in the grass, but there is the summoning emblem on the ground right here in the middle of this open area. So I'm going to summon Ivy, the Poisonous Mass. So we're going to get off to the side so it doesn't enrage when it spawns in. And there's Ivy, similar to our big orange friend we fought earlier. Also just broke all my torches, that's cool. But this one is a little different in that its arena's hazards are different. Most of the slimes are similar boss fights, with the exception that the slime that they have in their arena provides different disadvantages. So this slime not only slows, as the orange slime did, but also applies poison, which reduces the healing that you intake by 75%. Now, that's not a huge debuff so long as you don't get hit. Obviously, purple slime can also, like the purple slime on the floor, can also spawn purple slimes, as you just saw there. But earlier game, when you're not quite as quick on your feet and you run the risk of getting hit more often, this can be debilitating because 15 seconds is a long time when you're being hunted, and only healing for 25% of your normal healing capacity makes these potions not all that great, or healing over time. So, name of the game with this one is just be careful not to get hit. It's obviously much stronger than the other bosses, you can see. And there's its other ability. It can rain down, it can rain down a sort of artillery from the sky, which it will do every so often. So you'll see it do a number of jumps to try to catch you, and then after a certain number of jumps, it will enrage and fire off its little artillery strike. Like that. And you just want to make sure that you're avoiding those areas because some of them will actually spawn slimes. So eventually it will hit an enraged state like the other bosses where it turns slightly red, and you're going to want to watch out because it's going to move quicker and fire off this artillery volley just a hair faster, I think. It's a little hard to tell, but it definitely does move quicker and can be quite a threat to you from that point forward. So, again, the name of the game is just avoid damage where possible, whittle the boss's health bar down until you have eventually destroyed it. And boom! Another good boss fight, another new slime chest to add to your collection. So in here, it'll offer a variety of things. A figurine, which is always fun to collect. I'm sure you saw them scattered all around my base. Some jewelry or shields or whatever you're looking for. Always good to take slime because it's a vital resource. But that is Ivy the Poisonous Mass. So not a bad way if you need to harvest some of this purple slime for recipes on the floor, or if you're just looking for a boss to train hits on, because again, this is a pretty tanky boss. So the next of the gelatinous bosses we will be looking for exists in a different biome we have yet to visit, the ocean biome, and we'll be hunting Morpha the aquatic mass. I'm going to head back up to the teleporter and I'll see you there. Alright, so you can see the aquatic biome here, all of my various explorations out into it, but most notably you can see this big old mass of blue slime on the ground, with a big pit in the middle. And what's that nearby? A waypoint. This one slightly northwest as compared to the northern one that I just went to, but we'll teleport there and head to the boss room. Some of my least favorite enemies upon spawning, the crabs. Those are one of the major dangers of this zone, are the crabs, so if you are unfamiliar with this area, watch out for them. So this is the ocean biome and a dangerous threat known as Morpha the aquatic mass. Now, as its name might recommend, it is a blue aqua slime. It's going to spawn the blue slime you see here along with a couple other threats. So we're gonna go ahead and spawn the boss in the same way. As you can see, I'm just clearing the arena of some of these troublesome crab enemies and other little slimes, because they can be quite a problem. As this area, especially earlier in the game, will deal a lot of damage to you. The bubbles those crabs shoot and a couple other attacks from around are incredibly impactful, as this is one of the final locations in the entire game, the final biomes. So for now, you can see the giant summoning area on the ground. Let's get the boss in real quick and step off to the side so it doesn't enrage. So like the other bosses before it, it's a big giant slime. This one obviously notably blue, but it has a couple different mechanics we're going to watch out for, the two being the bubbles it creates, which again will deal a lot of damage, but will also give you a debuff that causes you to slide around, which is real aggravating. That's what this blue slime does. Unlike the other slimes, this slime doesn't slow you down quite. It's not just an immediate slow. It makes it to where you just slide all over the place. So if you're standing in it, like, and happen to stand still, it can be really hard to take off in. As you see, changing direction is really slow and it's really hard to start running as compared to just being on ground. But also if you're running through it, you start sliding, so it can make it really hard to implement finer controls for dodging things like the bazillion bubbles that will damage you quite a bit and give you that same sliding debuff even when you're not on the slime. So a very dangerous boss for sure, but we're going to go ahead and kick up the boss fight to get into it. Alright, so Morpha is mad, and as you can see, Morpha works in much the same way as bosses we have previously fought. Again, it's going to jump around and chase you, and then occasionally stop to blow a bazillion bubbles, which can be very hard to navigate through if you're all slippery and slidey. And again, if you're not as tanky as I am, a character who has literally beaten the entire game, these bubbles can be devastating. So you could very easily catch yourself losing this entire fight simply because you slid through a couple bubbles. They're that deadly. Fighting it with a group is handy because you can have somebody stay and kite the boss around if you happen to slide through too many bubbles and expire early, so that the boss doesn't reset. But when you're doing it alone, you really just have to monitor your health and potions and make sure that you keep moving. Once you knock it down to a certain low level of health, you can see the boss speeds up again and continues to hunt you quicker, but it will stop occasionally to blow bubbles, which is where ranged combat really comes in handy, because when it stops to do that, you can just sit there and laser it. So we'll go ahead and finish the boss fight. Ow. And boom, there goes the boss. Now that the boss has expired, you can see that it dropped us a shiny blue chest to go on our slime chest collection, a bunch of blue slime, some armor that's really good for mages in the kind of mid-late game area if you're looking for that, and some more gears that I'm not really going to worry too much about. They just help build these wonderful recall idols. So there we go. That was Morpha the aquatic mass, but that leaves us with one more slime boss that we have to talk about that goes by the name Igneous the molten mass. So I'm going to go ahead and head over there to where the boss is, and I'll see y'all there. Alright, so you might notice that we're not at Igneous the molten mass's boss base, and that's because I took a touch of a detour to come back to my armory and sort through my bazillion different chests. Yeah, the end game got really messy. To find an armor set called the Cosmos set. So it's basically a space set I'm going to go ahead and grab. And what it does is it makes this upcoming fight much easier. As you could guess by the name Igneous the Molten Mass, this is a boss that aims to set you on fire a lot. So although this armor set is weaker than the armor set I am wearing, it makes me look like a spaceman, which is really cool, and wearing 2 pieces of this armor set make me immune to burning. Now, being immune to burning is such a huge benefit for this boss that I'm willing to sacrifice the stat bumps just for the sake of not being set on fire constantly. So, alright, I'll see y'all at the boss fight. Alright, so here we are. You might notice that this teleport looks a little different. Once you get to a certain mining level, you can actually pop these things up off the ground and move them wherever you want. So we had an extra one that spawned right by our base that was close enough to the base that we thought it wasn't worth leaving there. And we moved it here because we couldn't find this particular boss's spawning circle, or what's the word, waypoint. I say that because these boss arenas are surrounded by molten rock, and obviously molten slimes that very much want to fight. And this molten rock, as you can see with the best mining tool in the game, still take quite a while to mine through. And you're surrounded by dangerous butterflies that deal a lot of damage, and red slimes. So instead of painstakingly carve north, south, east, and west to hunt around for the waypoint that's likely spawned somewhere around this boss, we elected just to bring this one and leave it here. It's so much easier because, again, this stuff is just so hard to mine through, so it's very time consuming. So either way, let's head down into the boss fight. Not too much to say about this one that you don't already know. It's going to be a giant molten slime. When I get down and spawn it, you'll see what it looks like. It's, again, very obviously different from its fellows. Very dark arena because of all the black color, so you're going to make sure you bring plenty of light, or else you will not be seeing very well, or have a weapon that glows, which is handy. So, alright, let's summon Igneous in. Hello, big fella. Fortunately, Igneous himself does a bit of glowing, so you'll never miss him. Yeah. A giant fireball. Now, this boss has a couple mechanics that are different than what you'd expect, or different from the other ones, so as we start fighting him, I will explain them, but we'll do that explaining during the fight. So, let's do it, Igneous. This is the only one of the fights that I actually have to be on my game for. So, alright. He's just gonna hop around like normal. He does leave this fire slime on the ground. Ow. These are the rocks I'm talking about. These are special. So you want to destroy these whenever you see them, because what happens is if they hit you, it hurts a lot, as you can tell. But if they get back to touching him, oh, he also shoots fireballs. If those floating rocks get back and actually touch the boss, then they will heal him for quite a great amount. So you really want to make sure you destroy those rocks. You switch your focus from attacking him to destroying those rocks every time you see them, or the boss is going to heal and this fight is going to take a lot longer. Again, it also spawns this molten slime on the ground, which slows you as per normal slime, while also setting you on fire and dealing constant damage. So becoming fireproof for this fight, one way or another, is absolutely invaluable. There we go. I'll let one of the rocks touch him so that it heals him. So there we go. You can see his health went up a little bit. It'll go up more. Boom, boom. There you go. He recovered like half of his missing health there. And I think that it scales with how low his health is. He also, ow, shoots those fireballs off. That hurt a lot. So I'm going to go ahead and start chunking through this fight as we finish talking. But yeah, this is definitely the strongest and hardest of the bosses. Having that teleport is super handy because when it starts shooting fireballs, it tries to guess which path you're going to go. And if you teleport in a cardinal direction, so north, south, east, or west, ow, unless you teleport into one like a goober, then it makes it easier to dodge them. So you just have to watch out. Like every other boss, he gets enraged. Oh, fireballs, 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 fireballs. The weapon that I have is incredibly useful for doing that, but technically, if you're a really tanky character, you can just throw your shield up and walk into them. So he shoots, I think, 1 or 2 more fireballs per volley when he's enraged, which he is now. It's a little harder to tell because he is just a red boss in general. But he'll shoot more fireballs out, ow, and move faster. So, again, this is why I have so many potions, because late game, you get to a point where dodging everything seems a little unlikely. You're occasionally going to catch a stray, and you want to be able to take it. So after a while, you will whittle the boss down and claim victory over the final of the slime bosses, with the exception of one. So there is one slime boss that I haven't touched on, and I'm not going to touch on because it is a boss that you will not fight until after the end of the game. So it is post-final boss is when I fought this guy. His name is Slime, technically a primordial slime, but he exists in a world far beyond all of these, and I think he deserves his own kind of place at the very end of the game as one of the end game bosses, right next to the actual end of the game boss. But either way, that was all of the slimes in the game. So now that we've beaten Igneous the Molten Mass, there are no other slimes to slay. You have slain them all. Quite the achievement, and quite the gateway into the rest of the bosses in the game. There are quite a few, but next up we will be tackling the first 3 Titans, the cardinal 3 of them all. So, yeah, overall, a very, very fun bunch of bosses, a cool way to reuse a similar boss a couple times over. It's one of the reasons I love slimes. They're very dynamic, and I hope this was helpful to you for understanding where you can look for them, what they kind of offer as rewards, and how you can fight them and what you should be prepared for. This game is definitely a challenging one as you get into these late stage bosses, and I'm always trying to find ways to make other people's lives easier. So again, I've been Dandy. I've really enjoyed getting to do this. If you have any questions or comments, please make sure to toss them below. Consider subscribing if you're looking for help to achievement hunt or just get through some of the harder games you're playing, because I'm always trying to provide tips. And thank you so much for watching. Bye, friends.